Along the southern coast of England sits Brighton, a quaint little town an hour away from London. Brighton is well known for its beaches, university, and nightlife. But hidden within the small town is the award-winning racing game developer Black Rock Studio. Black Rock's latest title is the track-changing explosive racing game Split Second.
Split Second is an action-packed racing game with the emphasis definitely on the action. You can imagine racing through the biggest, most spectacular action sequences from Hollywood blockbusters where you're actually the one triggering the action. That's Split Second in a nutshell.
The setting for the intense game is a fictional TV show that challenges the world's best stunt drivers to race at top speeds through a city that is literally wired to explode.
We've got a lot of experience making racing games, but it was a big challenge for us to take that experience and move it into the action game genre. We wanted to look more like a movie than a simulation.
All of the actual effects in the race are triggered remotely by the player from their car. So around the world there's loads of explosives that have been primed in buildings and in structures on the edge of the track. And as the player races round and they do things like drifting, overtaking, jumping, drafting, you earn what we're calling the power bar. And when each segment of the power bar is full up, that actually gives you the ability to trigger remotely one of these explosives. You'll find inspiration in the game from a lot of great movies. Anything that looks like it shouldn't be done in a video game, we're trying to do it.
We've taken all of the elements that you normally find in a racing game HUD, and we've kind of tried to centralise them behind the car. It's working really well because it frees up the rest of the screen, and where you're going to have all these effects and all these explosions, they're not going to be hidden by HUD.
It's a racing game. You want that #1 slot. But the other key thing with Split Second is you really want other racers around you as well, because you want other cars there to drop bridges on, blow holes in the road in front of, and that kind of thing.
And as you can see from these visuals, the veteran developers at Black Rock are determined to challenge your thumbs and amaze your eyes.
A certain sense of power of pressing a button on your joypad and seeing a plane crash land. It's really cool to play actually trigger it all themselves.
The power plays are these big animation moments with a lot of physics interaction.
The way the player gets to remotely trigger these power plays is by overtaking other cars, drifting, jumping, all kinds of stuff like that. It earns you power, and when you earn enough power, you can trigger them remotely.
It's a way for you to control the track, create shortcuts and take out your opponents.
So if the car in front of you has an icon above them, that signifies they're being targeted in a power play zone. And if you press your power play button then, something in the environment will get triggered.
Some of them up to 1.8 kilometres in length of animation that we need to do. Synchronised with that, we need all the audio and the VFX and the changes in the post-processing of the game to give that emotional experience.
You've got things like, cars that actually have explosives primed underneath them and get blown across the track, gas stations that can blow up, monorail trains that you can derail with explosions, all the way up to bringing down giant structures like control towers. The whole screen can become absolutely full of explosions and smoke and dust and wreckage.
As the player drives up to the power play, you kind of want that player to kind of flinch, getting that emotion from the screen. So we spend a lot of time and effort choreographing the power plays and all the effects. The environments are really rigged to blow. It's not just one big explosion, there's lots of little things. The guys are really working on a system where if you actually slowed the game down, you'd kind of see a story of all the effects.
You never know exactly how a lap or a race is going to play out, so sometimes you might not have enough power to trigger some power plays you want in the environment, or sometimes your opponent might trigger it before you get there. So it really does mean that every race and every lap is very different. You can never completely predict what's going to happen when. The really cool thing about our tracks in itself for starters is that each track has in it far more content than any other racing game's track. In a regular racing game, you race track #1, you can play that game for 20 hours, you go back to track #1, it's still the same track you played originally. And in Split Second, as you go through the game, you can unlock these new power plays. And we also have lots of split routes that are opened by triggering explosions in the environments and destruction. So in that respect, it's a little bit like, say, what you get in a platformer or an action game. being encouraged to revisit areas similar in the game and finding the new content.
As you're going around the lap, different things are happening to you. The designers are introducing different features. Each lap isn't the same, each lap changes.
I decided to kind of think a bit more out of the box and think about some environments that could really offer up truly spectacular moments rather than just average stuff that you see in most games. The dockyards, airports, it's the sort of thing you don't really see in most racing games.
What's really cool with the cars is that you start the game and as you go through it, you get given these 30 cars. You get awarded them by winning episodes in the TV show. As you play through the game and you unlock certain achievements, these achievements are actually represented on your car as decals. So when you're racing online, you see some guy and his car's covered in stickers, he's an expert and be careful. And if it's a slightly, emptier car, they're pretty new to the game. It really means that the car itself, it actually evolves with you as you play the game.
We kind of wanted to steer clear of kind of compact cars and hot hatches. We wanted something that feels big, meaty, that feels like it's, it could handle the kind of destruction that's been thrown at it by the game. On top of that, we also wanted to kind of design them from the ground up as it's a TV show. So essentially the TV company have created these vehicles and they've also designed the vehicles so that they're as spectacular as they possibly can be when they crash or when they get hit by a building or by a ship or other vehicles.
We didn't want one car to be miles faster than others. Ultimately, they all need to be competitive. So really, it's more about their handling characteristics rather than their handling abilities. If someone wants to take the car from the start all the way through the game, they can do. And like I say, because the stickers on the car are evolving with you and the bodywork, it'll show that you've invested more time with that car than someone who's just played through to get all the cars individually. It's a real, personalised experience.
In this studio we take audio really seriously. We really want to go for the cinematic approach.
The music in this game is what we determine as dynamic and really powerful. It's all original music, everything has been penned from the ground up, and it really adds to the whole game experience.
You hear a car sounding awesome in a film or just racing down the street. It's the note of the engine really gives you that impact, really excites you.
The vehicle's had a lot of attention to detail. The system that we developed has taken over a year to get the playback to the standard that it's at. There's a lot of design that we're going to use from different elements of sound design as well to really give the cars a unique sound as well as a real-world sound.
As a sound designer, you just have to grab all the sound that you can, and the more sounds you've got at source, the more stuff you can do.
Power plays in this game are a huge experience. We've used real sound effects, hyper-real created sound effects, non-literal sounds, for example, like a roar in a lion, all sorts of things like that to create a really unusual and dynamic experience for the sound of a power play.
We'll have a dynamic mixer event which will duck the music and bring up the bullets and bring up the lion roars and kick out the flanger, if you're in a certain radius. It really is to sort of draw the player into more uncomfortable zones sonically.
One of the great things we did to help us develop not only the collisions for cars but also our power plays is we visited a junkyard. We bought 3 or 4 cars and basically set to work like demolition men with hammers, spanners and anything that we could find just to record smashing the stuff up.
There's a lot more that comes out of the mix, dependent on whether you're a victim or you're the aggressor, or there's a lot of different situations in. It certainly isn't a standard audio arcade racer.